if you look at any picture from like the 1960s or 1970s, people didn't have six-pack abs and booty shots, right? But most people were just a healthy body weight.
Yeah.
And now I'm in completely great shape, and I'm going to advertise it all over social media, or I'm going to hide and never show a picture of myself on the internet because I'm embarrassed of it.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and this is episode number 156. I talked to Brian Sutton from the National Association of Sports Medicine, otherwise known as NASM, otherwise known as Nasm to us lay people. And great interview. Man, Brian and I have been swimming in same circles for a long time. We finally got to connect and lay down an interview like this. And I was so excited, you can tell, almost giddy to get this interview and talk to him for a while, because to me, and Brian agrees, is that the whole world of education, not just fitness education certifications, but the whole world of education, the institution itself is ripe for disruption. And what does that mean? Well, anything that's ripe for disruption has a world of opportunity. And, it's not just within the fitness and health community, but all over the world, right? And we talk about that, why it's such a big deal. And you're starting to see a lot more people come out with certifications, a lot more things like getting a trade certification, or you're seeing it pop up everywhere. And I'm knee deep in it, right? With certified course creation. I can tell you, listen to this interview and really let it sink in, because if you do, and you start looking at the world through this lens, that perhaps you'll see some opportunities that you didn't see before. So great insights from Brian. One of the things that NASM already has come out with is their nutrition coach certification. So you can go check out that. No doubt that is going to be a premier certification education course too. So much opportunity here. And I think it makes sense that this is brought to you by certifiedcoursecreation.com. So Kate and I have been busy building out accredited online certifications for people and institutions that really need it. And it's been awesome. I mean, the ones we've launched, they've all made multiple ROI on their investment with us. And it's just kind of a no-brainer. If you are somebody who has a great, depth of knowledge in a particular topic, and you've been successful in your area, and now it's time for you to scale. And what I mean by scale is leveraging yourself. You can't do it all. But what if there was people that took your knowledge, right, that you can teach them through the years that you put into it, and then run out there and be versions of you in their own unique way, and spread the word, increase impact, make a ton of income, and stop trading your time for money, really is one of the big things as well, which we fall into with the fitness and health profession quite often. So go to certifiedcoursecreation.com. There's a little bit of information about Kate and I, and you can book a call with me if you think you have a great concept. I will help you maybe tease it out a little bit and see how relevant it is to the market and what kind of opportunity there is for it. I'm happy to do that. So certifiedcoursecreation.com. Without further ado, this is episode number 156 with Brian Sutton of the National Association of Sports Medicine. Enjoy the ride. We're live. Brian, welcome.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, this is fun. A couple things before we get started. Want to give a shout out to Doug Holt, Ben Reuter. Both have introduced me to you in the past, and I'm glad that I finally got you on a podcast here. So kudos to those guys, and you can check out all the millions of things. Ben has 2 podcasts, Living to Move, and what's his Pittsburgh one? I always forget.
It's something Pitts Lab.
Maybe it's Fit Lab Pittsburgh.
Something like
that. That's it. Fit Lab Pittsburgh and Moving to Live. Those are his 2 primary podcasts. One's local, and one's all the place. You can check them out. And then Doug has a couple of podcasts too, so you can check him out as well. But yeah, man, let's talk about you. Give us your story, Brian.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, first, let's go back. A big shout out to Doug and Ben, because Ben and I Ben was actually one of my professors way back in 2009. Nice. And then in 2010, I actually became adjunct faculty at Cal U, where Ben still teaches. So I taught there for 8 years. So Ben's a great guy. Love Ben. I'm actually working with him on a project here. And then, of course, Doug and I, we were college roommates. So that's how we met. And it's interesting how both of us now have careers in the fitness industry. It's telling you about my age, this is almost 20 years now. This is probably over 20 years I've been in the fitness industry. So it's pretty cool. You get to meet a lot of really awesome people in this industry. But those are two guys at the top of their game for sure. But my name is Brian. I've been with the National Academy of Sports Medicine since 2004. So been quite a while. And I oversee, or I am part of the team of the education department, the product development team. So all the different certifications that we build, certified personal trainer, corrective exercise, performance enhancement. We just came out with a new nutrition certification. So all those courses, my team and I put together. So we work with some really, really smart people to put that education together. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I think, do you go by Nasm or is it NASM? How do you guys say it around the office?
So around the office, it's NASM.
Okay.
Out in the real world, everyone else calls us Nasm.
Yeah.
Why in the office? We've never adopted it. We've always said NASM. So it's interesting. It's almost like nails on a chalkboard when we hear Nasm. I don't know why. It's just because no one says NASA. They always say NASA, right? But
right.
For us in the office, the culture has always been NASM. It's just what it is. So
yeah. Well, I mean, Nasm.
But if you say Nasm, I won't be offended.
It's not like a fun word to hear. It sounds like spasm, not like something about it, right? It's not like it's not like French, right? It doesn't sound fluid and melodic.
No, it really does. And I think maybe it's part of it is because the other credential organizations, NSCA, ACSM, they don't, I guess the only caveat would be ACE. Everyone says ACE, but that makes sense. But none of the other ones say AXM or a NESCA. They just say NSCA. So maybe that's the reason why that culture has stuck for as long as it has.
How big is as compared to some of the other certifying bodies? Like how big is NASM?
It's pretty big, yeah. As far as market share goes, NASM is the biggest. Okay. So, and I believe ACE is number 2 as far as market share, and then it tails off pretty quickly from there. NSCA and ACSM, I don't know specifically what their market share is, but I know NASM has the biggest market share, and then ACE is number 2.
Well, and you guys, and when was NASM founded?
It was founded in 1987, actually. So it's been around a while. A guy named Dr. Bob Goldman founded NASM. And then in the 90s, he sold NASM to a person named Neil Spruce. And Neil Spruce owned NASM for quite a while until 2009, 2010. And then he sold NASM. NASM was acquired by another company who's currently, they're called Ascend Learning. That's our parent company. And so they own several businesses. And Ascend Learning owns mostly businesses in the healthcare related field. So organizations that specialize in nursing or different types of certifications in the medical field. So like being a phlebotomist or, I don't know, some of the other medical fields. And then, so Ascend Learning owns a bunch of different businesses, and NASM just happens to be one of them. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you, I know because we had talked, I think last week about, since you started your career there, you've seen just drastic exponential growth in NASM. Yeah,
it's been a wild ride. When I started in 2004, NASM was basically a family-owned business. I think there's 20, 30 people, so it wasn't a very big company. And over the years, I mean, it's gotten big, so we're just about to move into a new office next year because we've run out of space. So it's pretty cool. We have maybe 130 employees, something like that. And of course, there's also employees that work offsite as well. So it's it's pretty big. A lot of moving parts, So but It's a great culture. It's my wife always says I have a unicorn job, and yeah, I do. I mean, it's fun. I work with some of the best minds in fitness, so it's fun.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah. It's interesting. I was asking is there do you guys have to report to any kind of government body? Is there anybody looking over the fitness, health, wellness, education space from a federal standpoint?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. So fitness is not regulated by the federal government. Or fitness certification is not. It's more self-regulated.
Yep.
So IRSA has their recommendations. So the International Health, Rec, and Sports Club Association. So we tend to follow IRSA's recommendation. Thankfully, the fitness certification world has changed a lot. When I first started in 2004, that's when the diploma mills were at their height. Go online and get a personal trainer certification for $50 and call yourself a personal trainer, right? That really doesn't exist as much anymore. There's lots of different certifying organizations, but majority of them are they seek third-party accreditation. Ours is through the NCCA, so the National Commission on Certifying Agencies. So the test is accredited. Someone's got to go to a testing site, and it's proctored, and so you can't cheat. And all those things help elevate the standards of fitness. But the federal government does not regulate personal training certification whatsoever. Will that change? There's always been speculation. There have been proposed bills in some states, it should be more of a licensing, like a physical therapist needs to get licensed by their state, or a dietitian needs to get licensed by their state. But that hasn't happened yet. And if that does, we'll adjust. But right now we just go through third-party accreditation for our courses.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I've been talking to people in the fitness industry for a long time is well, if the fitness profession truly wants to elevate, right? Mm-hmm. To the likes of, medical professionals,
sure.
Right? Attorneys,
yeah.
Things like that, where we really want to elevate to a level of respect and earnings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Follow that
sure.
As well. What needs to happen. A lot of people say it's the formal education that needs to take place. But then there's also a backlash because I've seen Facebook arguments start over this, as you can imagine, to go
of course,
deep, right?
Yes.
No, we want federal out of it. We don't want anybody regulating. We're happy the way things are.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting dichotomy, right? What do you do with that? I mean, do you have any opinions on where you think it's going to go? Do you think somebody's going to step in and become the licensing board, I guess?
Possible. I mean, anything's possible because I've seen so much change since I've been doing this. I think there's two groups. There are the groups that just say, no federal regulation, let us do it ourselves, right? Yeah. And then there are the other groups going, no, we want more recognition, right? We want to be held to the same standard as, say, a physical therapist assistant, right, or something like that, a vet tech, right? You have to get the formal education to do those professions, and we want personal training to be something like that. And I see some validity in that. I really do. Since that's not the case, thankfully, I've been given the autonomy to make the certifications that NASM provides as rigorous as we feel we need to ensure that once someone gets certified, they're going to be a successful personal trainer, right? And that's from knowing the anatomy, the physiology, to the behavior change, communication, program design, fitness assessments, all those different things that go into personal training. I do feel, we take it very seriously here at NASM to make sure that we cover those topics and we don't water it down. Other organizations could, if they really chose, if they wanted to, but I feel like we don't want to. We want NASM to be the gold standard, so that's why we don't do it. It's more of an ethical thing. But if regulation does happen, if there are some federal guidelines or state licensing that is required, I know NASM would be able to adapt very quickly to that, just because the rigor is already in place with the content that we create. So,
yeah. I mean, ultimately, it starts with an example, right? If you guys hold everybody to a higher standard, we'll do it ourselves. And therefore, it'll trickle down to our clients and communities, and people will see like, oh, this person's a professional.
That's
a lot of it comes
the
to
idea,
demeanor,
right? Because obviously NASM and myself included, we have a vested interest to elevating the personal training profession, right? We don't want personal trainers to just be the people that look great in the mirror, and back. Think of like the 70s and 80s. The only personal trainers you knew of, they were former bodybuilders, for example, or high-end athletes, and so they trained people, but they may have no formal education on exercise science or nutrition or anatomy, physiology. They're just like, here's what I do, so you're going to do the same thing. We don't want that. We really want our professionals to have that knowledge base. So we want to elevate them to a higher standard than just being the jocks in the gym, and I think we do that fairly well. I do see a lot of chatter on social media where people are like, oh, why do I have to learn the muscles? Why do I have to learn about this sort of anatomy? Well, if you want to elevate the profession, you have to have a certain level of knowledge. You have to understand how the body works. Because then I can dissect any exercise and tell you exactly what muscles are working, what joint actions are happening, how it's affecting my energy systems, and at the end of the day, how that's going to impact my client. So that base level of knowledge is, for me, it's always important. I'm a better trainer because I have that knowledge. So
yeah. Well, of course, the Instagram 6-packs and booty shot. That's not helping.
Yeah.
There, right?
It's not helping.
That's a whole nother conversation. Ask this, man. When I don't want to get into that. When do you think the fitness profession started? Because it's young, and I've looked back. I'm like who was it? Was it Arnold Schwarzenegger? Right? Was it Lalane? Like who really kind of started it as like, okay, you can actually train people, as a profession. When do you think that started?
That's a great question. I think it's just morphed in many different directions over the years. Mm-hmm. You and I we're about the same age. So, when I was growing up, my idols were Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Hulk Hogan, those kind of guys, and I'm like, I'm going to look like Stallone, and so I think it's morphed, in the 80s, it was more, all the research was about aerobic exercise, and that's when aerobics really started taking off, right? And you got the leotards and all that kind of good stuff.
Yes, mini trampolines.
Yeah, right. And even before that, in the 70s, it was more of the jogging, running craze started to happen. So I would say the fitness industry really, if I had to narrow it down to what we think of it today, probably somewhere in the 70s, I would guess. But they didn't really start to get formalized until probably more the mid-late 80s, where you started hiring personal trainers. Gyms started seeing a revenue stream like, hey, you know what? We could get some people in here to train clients, and that's more revenue for us, get more people into the gym, higher membership sales. And I think that really started more so in the 80s. In the 70s, it was more aerobics and group X and that kind of stuff. And then the personal training industry started taking off, I think, after that.
Yeah. And I think it's just an interesting conversation for people to hear, because a lot of people don't actually think about it. Think about how young the fitness industry truly is. And, compared to, some of the professions we talked about there earlier, nursing or dentistry or, physical therapy, like these things have been around for a while, and we're just getting started. So, things, and I think we're doing all right. And
I think so. I hope so. Again, a lot of it's changed because when I got started in it, so I started working at a really small gym during my undergrad. And so that was the late 90s. And just the change in personal training and group X from the 90s till now it's drastic, and it's just getting better. There are still the issues of fitness professionals not having a full depth of understanding what they should do. But I think organizations like NASM, and then even just some of the independent people out there that are teaching personal training. They may not belong to an organization like NASM or NSCA, but they're teaching really good things. And there's lots of summits and workshops and continuing ed out there for Fit Pros to go and learn something more. And I think that's huge. That's huge for the industry. Unfortunately, it still has a very high turnover, right? And
Yep.
most people will get certified. They have no idea that they have to sell, right? They think they're just going to get handed clients and they're going to be able to help people. And that's not the case. It's just like any other business. You got to go out there. You got to get clients. You got to market yourself. And then you got to build up that book of business. And if you don't, you're going to fizzle out really quick. There's no magic wand where now I'm certified and I'm going to have 30 clients and in my Rolodex. That just doesn't happen anymore. If people understand what a Rolodex is, I think it's
I get it.
Yeah. So that unfortunately that happens. But when someone gets over that hump and they've been in the industry, I think that's where we see the personal trainers. They're really elevated, and they understand program design, but they also understand marketing. They understand sales. They understand how to relate and communicate with clients. Their level of professionalism, it's up here now, right? They don't just think of it as, I'm a rep counter and I'm going to take this person through this workout. It's their profession. It's their identity in a way. It's their career, not just a job.
Yeah.
And I would love for more people to experience that, but it's a tough industry, just like anything else. If I was going to go out and get certified to become an accountant, I just passed my CPA exam. I could go work for a company and that might be easier. But if I started my own business, which basically personal training is, even if you work for a big box, it's your own business. There are a lot of skills that personal trainers need to have in order to run their own business. And I think that's the one area that's lacking in the industry, is teaching those aspiring personal trainers, the newly certified personal trainers, how to run their business.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing. I mean, I've said it probably 100 times on the show, is that, the fitness industry is by nature entrepreneurial. You can't escape it. Right. Yep. You have to look at yourself as a business every day from the get-go. And there is, the last 5 years, especially, I've seen a big push for business coaching, marketing coaching specialists. I can take my pitching wedge and hit any direction and hit a digital marketer now. Right.
Absolutely.
And there's plenty of that. So maybe there's an overcorrection taking place now, but it's important. People really need to know how to market their businesses. And, coming from a gym owner who started from zero, right, in Santa Barbara, California, as you know, is a very, very competitive market.
Yes. Yep. Go Gauchos, by the way.
Go Gauchos. Right. I'm a Boston College Eagle, but we'll take it. It was, it's a challenge. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of great coaches out there. There's a lot of also, business coaches. There's also a lot of people out there, and talk to Pat Rigsby about this, who are skipping the business part and going straight to business coaching, right? Which is interesting. I think now you got to spend some time in the trenches.
Nowadays, I see that a lot too.
Yeah. So let's, I want to get into the meat of some of the topics that we kind of addressed before we recorded, but where do you see, and we can expand it to education as a whole, but where do you see online fitness education going right now? And I guess maybe I can start with this. What do you think, what's the biggest problem with online fitness education now from your perspective?
For fitness education as it stands, I think it's not necessarily content that's the problem. I think it's how it's taught is the problem. I'm lucky enough that not only have I learned a lot of the content, and I've been studying anatomy, phys, and exercise science and all this stuff for 20 years, but I've expanded my breadth of knowledge regarding instructional design and education. So it's not just the content that but it's how you teach it that's important. And I find that that's probably one of the biggest problems in fitness education. Other sectors are way more advanced than fitness when it comes to teaching the content and how they teach the content. if I were to go to something like Khan Academy, for example, I don't know if you ever heard of Khan Academy. Khan Academy is great, right? And it's a free online resource for people to learn English and math and science, and it's for schoolers from kindergarten through high school, right? And it's
awesome,
really cool
yeah.
resource. They do a wonderful job because it's not just they have content experts that teach the topics, but it's how they teach it. So things like hot buzz topics are like micro learning. So instead of just taking this big concept, let's just say, anatomy of the nervous system, we'll just start with tiny, tiny little chunks. And each chunk builds upon itself. It's called scaffolding. So by the end, now I have this holistic view of what the nervous system does and all the major components of it. Unfortunately, I see with a lot of fitness education is that they have content experts, but they don't have an expert in instructional design or education, how to teach it. So somebody who's brand new, who's never taken a science course in their life, never taken an anatomy course, and they read this chapter or they watch this video, and they're completely overwhelmed because they didn't provide the education to meet the person where they're at, and then build them up from there. And so we have a team of instructional designers here. I'm an instructional designer as well. So we have experts not only in the science, but we have experts in education. And so that's where I think fitness education for the most part is lacking. We get students all the time saying, I was doing fine until I got to the anatomy part and it was just too hard and I gave up. What that tells me is it's not the content, it's how we're teaching the content. And so we revise and we make it more palatable for the student without reducing the rigor. We still keep the rigor, we keep the difficulty, but we teach it better. We provide more analogies. We break it up into smaller chunks. We make it more engaging by using video or certain educational tools like drag and drops and matching and fun, and we gamify it and we do all these little things. And then the student doesn't even realize that they're learning all this content because it becomes more engaging for them. And I think other sectors do it fairly well. Like if I were to take a course through, I'm in Arizona, so if I went to take an online course through ASU, their courses may be a little bit better designed than some courses that I would take through in the fitness industry, because not only do they have professors, but they also have instructional designers and people that are really good at it. Lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning. That's a really good.
I didn't know that.
Huh. Yeah. That's a great example because they have content experts, but they also, you can see how everything is chunked out into small little segments.
Yeah.
So you have a unit broken down into lessons, and each lesson then is broken down into even, a smaller chunk.
Yeah.
That's an easier way to learn. Another thing is, which is interesting to me, but it totally makes sense. People are now learning just on their phones. They don't sit behind a computer, right?
Yeah.
So we're now building all of our courses to be mobile responsive. So if I'm walking on the treadmill at the gym, I can still learn, podcasts and audio and video, and just making sure that I can do all of it from my phone. Students are learning from their phone. They don't learn the traditional way with just a book and test questions. That's old school. And any organization that just provides a book and practice tests, they're outdated. That's not the way this generation is being taught in public schools. It's not the way they're learning on their own. They will go to YouTube. They will go to any other free online resource and find the answers there rather than just read and highlight a textbook. Some people like books. I'm still a book learner, but this next generation of learners, they are using their mobile phones. They're going to YouTube. They're going directly to the source to find the answers. They're not necessarily just taking out a big 600-page textbook and reading through it. That's not the way people learn anymore.
Yeah, man. This is really, I really love this topic, man. I'm so, because I think about this all the time. I think if there's one institution within our country that's so ripe for disruption, it's education. It just doesn't make sense anymore. Why do you have to go to 4 years of anything? Sure. Right? And I mean, my nephew is going to the San Francisco Art Academy, right? Which I believe is just only 3 years. His expected debt when he's done is $150,000 if he doesn't get a grant or a scholarship.
It's
right?
insane. Absolutely crazy.
Screwed, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my wife learned how to ski over YouTube.
Right.
You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
Things are changing, and the access to the information doesn't need to be, now great. Okay. People say, well, college is a great experience. It is. I'm super thankful for college. I had a great time. I learned a lot of people. I met a lot of professors in an environment of learning. You can't do that online, but something's got to shift. Like this isn't good. And one that, I guess Kate and I at Certified Course Creation, which is, a plug for one of my, partner companies, we make sure that if we are building out a certification for whether it be a nutrition, we're doing a money coach one now, we're doing a bunch of different things, that there's a marketing and sales component to it. It has to.
Sure.
You have to have what we call the now what.
Yep.
Okay, great. I just learned all this stuff about macros.
Now what?
Mm-hmm. You got it.
We try to do that in our education as well. It's like, okay, I just learned about what a neuron is. Now what? Or I just learned how my body digests protein. Now what? Why is that important? So yeah, we try to do that as well. But this whole education thing is insane. And just personally speaking, I'm not speaking for NASM right now. I have two kiddos. They're 8 and 11. And obviously scholastic's very important, right? For us. But if my son decides I'd rather be an electrician, I don't see an issue with it.
No.
Because go to a trade school, you won't have that debt and you'll make a great living. Like there's nothing wrong with it. I will push my kids.
Or go get a mentor.
Yeah, for sure. But to go get an undergrad and be $100,000 in debt and it still won't advance your career is insane. One of the things I think is not fair, and it's the only time in society I can feel like this happens, is you're asking an 18-year-old to determine their career and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. When you're 18 years old, you have no idea. You've never even lived on your own. You've never experienced the real world. You're technically adult, but it's a child's mind. And you're like, okay, go to this college, go get a degree, go working. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get a $50,000 loan, $100,000 loan to get this degree to start working. And then the first day you get that job, you're like, this blows. And I just spent all this money on it. Because you're asking an 18-year-old to make that decision. There's no way. It's impossible, So that's where I think it's almost like you're asking an 18-year-old to get married to their career. And we always say, I'll tell my kids, I'm like, if you want to get married at 18, you're too young, right? You should go have some relationships first. But we're asking them to do that with their career. We're asking an 18-year-old to marry their career and take out a very big investment for it. And I think it's the wrong perspective.
Yeah. And you're seeing a whole generation push back, and they should, right?
They should.
You're right. Like, and plus, like, do you even know at that age what $100,000 is? Like, do you have any idea what that means for your life? That's like, you're immediately enslaved for decades, if not more. Right.
Yeah. For sure.
It's interesting. One of my idols is Joe Rogan. I listen to his podcast all the time. And one of the things he points out, as far as educational reform that probably will take place, maybe not in the next decade, but definitely I think in the next 20, is it's just boring, right? You go through grammar school, it's just boring. Like, no wonder kids are getting diagnosed with this fake thing called ADHD, or, you know what I mean? It's like, well, they're just bored to death. But think about this, think about what virtual reality is going to do to the educational space. You could read about the pyramids, or you could put on a VR headset and go walk the pyramids. Right. And check it out. Like, for sure. How cool is that? And I think we're missing the point. We're like, well, you got to stay off your video games. You got to stay off your devices. You got to stay off. Well, maybe we meet them where they're at.
Mm-hmm. For sure. My 8-year-old is learning about coding. I don't know how to code.
I don't know either.
At all. Like, really, it's completely foreign to me. But he loves it because it's in the form of a game. and he codes games and he makes games. He's 8 years old.
Wild.
He's barely learning his multiplication tables, and he's coding. I'm like,
Cool.
yeah, let's meet these kiddos where they're at, and let's embrace technology when it makes sense. I mean, I have strict rules with my kids on how long they can be on the computer or watch TV, right? And I still feel there's value in opening a book or just playing and using your imagination.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that technology is bad all the time. And
right.
we can leverage it to help learners. That's one of the things that here at NASM, we're constantly exploring. It's like, how can we use technology to better enhance the experience? Because if someone's not engaged with it, they're going to fall off, but if we can get them engaged and be like, wow, this is really cool. So we're looking at things like augmented reality and virtual reality, and
gotta be
how can that help, right? Especially because it's distance education. We're not sitting in a classroom together. So what can I do to improve that experience?
Yeah. I mean, you got to, and this nicely segues into a topic I want to cover with you too, which is, I was jotting down notes last night. I don't do this very often before a podcast, but I was thinking about our conversation last night, and I was like, what kind of stuff would I want to talk about with Brian? I'm like, re-education, because this came up. I was talking to a gentleman who I know listens to this podcast, Brian Cooper. Thanks for being a listener. But Brian helps people if they're in their 40s or 50s who maybe are taking a redirection in their career or get laid off and they don't want to go through the hassle, or they don't have the education, they don't know how to code, right?
Right.
He helps place them into businesses that they can grow, right? So help matches their personality, what they enjoy to do, into a business they can start and grow. Because usually they'll have some sort of capital to work with. But it got me thinking, like, well, maybe the huge opportunity here is re-education, right? We're seeing all these people dude, it breaks my heart when I go to Trader Joe's and I see someone, in their 70s, right? And maybe Social Security isn't taking care of them because they live in a place like California, right? It's just too damn expensive. Yep. And they're working there and they can't work the buttons, man. They can't work the buttons of the checkout thing. And, this happened to a good friend of mine, and he got let go because they're like, sorry, man, you can't do it, right? Mm-hmm. There's a huge opportunity for re-education because people are living longer. Mm-hmm. People aren't, the 40-year career followed by a pension doesn't exist.
Nope.
Right?
Not at all.
And a lot of people are getting laid off in favor of cheaper, younger, more educated talent. Mm-hmm. So how do we take this pool of people who are now lost and re-educate them and get them into things that can, move them into the second, third part of their life?
You're right.
Where do you see, does fitness play a part there? I think it could.
I think it can play a big part in it. In fact, this is an interesting factoid, is that you would think that most customers of NASM or some of the other certifying agencies are early 20s fitness enthusiasts that go to the gym all the time and they decide, I'm going to be a personal trainer. That's not the case. The average person who buys a certification from NASM is typically in their mid-30s, looking for a career shift. So they are trying something new. Sometimes it's because someone went through a big weight loss journey and they want to do it. They want to help others. But others, it's because I was working in construction for the last 10 years and I don't like it. Or, I've been working as an accountant and it's just awful. Whatever their personal story is. And so they are looking for fitness as a new career avenue. And so, it's great because you can get certified and it's not going to cost you the $100,000 that would be to go to, a 4-year university. So yeah, fitness absolutely does play a part in it, I think. But just online education in general will be the next wave of helping people get out of whatever career they're stuck in and move into something else. And fitness is definitely one of those. We have an obesity epidemic. I mean, 70% of the population now here in the U.S. is either overweight or obese.
Yep.
And they say over 80% of that is because of lifestyle. It's not genetics. So there's a need. There's a need. We are becoming sicker as a nation. So online education is one of those ways that people can get out of their current situation and into something new. Now, some people, will get completely frustrated with their job and they'll quit and they don't have a plan. Others are too scared. They may be indoctrinated, and they almost programmed that they have to stick with this company because they feel like they don't have another solution, right? I've been with company X for 20 years. It's all I know. There's no way for me to transition. I'm stuck forever. And that's not the case. But it's that fear of the unknown that where someone like you were saying was Brian Cooper.
Yeah.
Where he can specialize in helping people like that. It's true, because we don't live in that society anymore where I leave college, I'm going to go get a job. I'm with that job for 40 years. I get my pension. I'm good to go. Arizona's an at-will state, so they can fire you at any time, which I always say, and you can also leave at any time, right?
Yeah.
So life's too short. Life's too short to be stuck in something like that.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. God, it's just interesting. And so many, I do talk to a lot of fitness professionals who are just getting started in their 40s and 50s. And, because ultimately people get into the fitness and health industry and wellness industry because they really want to help people. They find that fulfilling.
Yep.
Right. And then
that's why I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it because I want to own my own business. I don't work from anybody. Really, that was why I did it. If I'm
you and Doug Holt have that same mentality where you're just like, I'm an entrepreneur through and through. And what's a profession that will allow me to do that?
Yeah, exactly. I was looking for my business opportunity. I missed it with the .coms. I missed it with mortgage. I missed it with a bunch of stuff because everything collapsed in the 2000s, right?
Yep, I remember all that.
Yeah. Where was I going with this? Yeah. So a lot of people, they truly want to help people, and that's amazing, but there's got to be a better path, right, for them to get into it. And I think, having education from people like an ASM and then following up with good marketing and business fundamentals, right? It doesn't even have to be anything sexy. It just has to be fundamentals. Well, how do you build a network? How do you build a different experience? Right?
Sure.
How do you do all these things is truly valuable. So we're in an interesting time in the fitness industry, right? I know you obviously are very educated on everything that's going on, but we got, apps. We got the group class franchises are killing it, right?
Sure.
We got home devices like Peloton, Tonal, all of these things. You're getting all the smart technology, right? I'm wearing my Garmin Fenix 5. I love it.
There you go.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
My
and
wife's got her
great data.
Apple Watch, and she's glued to that thing. Yeah.
What technology do you think is going to have the biggest impact on the fitness and health industry?
Good question. On the fitness industry itself.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I don't have a crystal ball, but I honestly think
it's AR, VR, like all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly think it's already happening, and it's called YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It's all the social media. I think social media more than anything is having the greatest impact on fitness. And that's in a good way and in a
I was going to add, that was my next question. Is it good or bad?
Yeah. Cause we'll have, those, the Instagram model with the 6-pack abs or the tight toned body, and people
booty
are
shots.
going right. Booty shots. Yeah. And so people are naturally gravitated to that and be like, I want to look like that person, so I'm going to learn from that person.
Right.
And I think that is probably the most influential impact on the fitness industry. Unfortunately, it's also causing a lot of body image disorders and physique anxiety. People are like, I can never attain a body like that. So why should I even try? Or I'm going to do it, but I'm going to hide in my house. I'm never going to go seek out a gym membership or a personal trainer because I have to lose weight before I'd even go to the gym to begin with. Right. And so I think, unfortunately, social media is driving that perspective to unhealthy levels. And now it's, if you look at any picture from like the 1960s or 1970s, people didn't have six-pack abs and booty shots, right? But most people were just a healthy body weight.
Yeah.
And now we have six-pack abs and booty shots or overweight and obese. And there's very few people that actually are just normal. That's a minority now. And it's almost like our political spectrum. And I won't go into politics, but it's extremes, right?
Right.
I'm in completely great shape and I'm going to advertise it all over social media, or I'm going to hide and never show a picture of myself on the internet because I'm embarrassed of it. And unfortunately, I think social media is probably the biggest technology driving not just fitness, but health awareness, wellness in general, how people feel about themselves, mental illness. I think social media has a lot to do with it.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm a generally pretty happy guy. But generally when I do get anxiety or even like hints of depression, it's because I'm down with my day and I decide to kick back on the couch and I get on social media.
Yeah.
And then you automatically start comparing. Be like,
you do.
How come I don't have that many downloads? How come, how come I don't have a 4-wheel drive Sprinter van? I just have a Ram, right? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure.
Meanwhile, I was completely happy 5 minutes ago with everything.
How come all my friends are going on these fancy vacations?
Yeah.
And I think what people have to realize is what they see on social media isn't necessarily true. It's it's the fancy packaging, but they don't know what's inside that box. All they see is the pretty bow on the end, but they don't know all the turmoil that's going inside. So, we have a comparison problem in this society where we're always comparing ourselves to other people. And I don't do a lot of social media. I choose to do that for a reason, because I like my world. I love my family. I love my job. So I don't need to go out there and compare myself to others. I'm happy, and I'd rather just be happy than deal with all that noise that's on social media.
Yeah. And we always compare up. We never compare down. Right.
For sure. Yeah, of course. Right.
That's the key. And, awesome. That's great messaging, man. So is there anything, today's recording is the 20th of September in 2019. Does NASM have anything big coming down the pipe that you guys are getting the word out on, or what's in store?
Yeah, I always like to say I'm drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yeah,
sure. We have lots of projects that are going on. We just launched our certified nutrition coach, so I'm going to give a plug. That was a year in the making, a little bit over a year in the making. We had 20 of the best authors help with this, and it's a really cool course. I think it's going to revolutionize nutrition education. It's
good.
There's 45 different videos, and we went above and beyond. We had videos in grocery stores, in restaurants, in kitchens. We had cooking videos with professional chefs, and it teaches all the science of nutrition. It teaches all about behavior change and coaching. So that's one of the courses I'm most proud of that we built. I'm working on another product right now. Can't say what it is. One of my colleagues is working on another product. Unfortunately, I can't say what it is. And then we have a mobile app that's it's already out there, and we're doing continuous updates for that, which I think is going to be pretty cool. But yeah, look for bigger, better things the end of this year, and then next year as well from NASM as far as more courses. We're going to start diving into some bigger and better topics that that we're trying to meet the fitness professional where they're at, and we go out and we ask. We do a lot of market research. What do you want to learn about? What interests you? And it's interesting because everyone has their own niche, So some person could be working with obese clients where another person says, I only work with tennis players. Okay. So we have to take all that data and then figure out what's the best course of action. But we got some really cool projects in the works.
Interesting. Yeah. I love how everything's kind of secret. still. Fun, right?
Well, yeah.
Very clandestine. Where do people find you, man? If people want to get a hold of you, want to ask you questions, where do they go?
Sure. My email is just my name. So it's Brian, BRIAN .Sutton, SUTTON @NASM.org. That's my work email. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'd say that's my social media outlet because it's just more professional.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anyone can find me there. I'm always happy to take in feedback, answer questions. If anyone has any feedback regarding our courseware, the curriculum, what we could do better, I'm always happy to engage in those type of conversations. And then, my next big venture is I start my doctorate degree next year. So that'll be fun.
Oof. Just a couple things. Just a few things. Yeah, man. Well, Brian, thank you so much. It's been really educational. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Really. It's awesome. So, yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me. And next time you speak to Ben and Doug, tell them I said hi.
I will. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Sutton.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. It's your host, Eric Malzone, and I have a quick favor to ask. Actually, 3 favors. So, number 1, if you're a fan of our show, I ask you to do something that takes under 3 minutes. Go to iTunes, please, and subscribe to our show. Please, please, please. It means so much to us. It's so important. And then give us a favorable review. We would really, really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how much it means and helps us out. So I know it takes 2 minutes of your day, and it means a lot to us. So please do that. Number 2, go to our YouTube channel, our Fitness Marketing Alliance, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel there. Number 3, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that we've released, share it on social. That's huge. That's a big deal for us. And we put a lot of work into these episodes, trying to give you great, actionable content for the fitness industry. So that would mean a lot. And that's it. So we have some big plans coming up for this show. I'll be talking about that in the next couple episodes. But thank you so much for listening. It means so much. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from everybody. Eric, ERIC @fitnessmarketingalliance.com.